that $7.5 million year started with the same recipe that I just told you guys. A couple years ago, had the same conversation with Matt. He took it farther than most, and he kept going, and he kept iterating and iterating and iterating and coming, and everything kept getting better and better and better and better, and he doesn't stop until things continually improve. And that's how you hit consistent winners.
All right, Mario, I'm glad to have you on, man. So anybody that's new around here, you should know Mario's a freaking legend in this space. He really got into helping people sell ShineOn probably 3 or 4 years ago. I don't even know at this point. And I'll let Mario kind of tell his old story. But the reason we're here today is because I want to help new people. I want to help people that haven't had their first sale. They don't really know how to get their first sale. They need help from a coach, from an expert that's helped thousands get their first sale. They need to know what testing methods to work, how to tweak things once they think they have something working for them, all of that. So Mario, I want you to just pretend that you're talking to a brand new client during this interview and help us kind of walk through your process with new clients when you're getting them up to speed. So before we really get into all the good stuff, do you want to give us kind of background on who you are, maybe how you came into this and that kind of thing?
Yeah, quick bio, full-time in e-com, pushing like 8 or 9 years. My first half of that was drop shipping, and then we started to get heavier and heavier into POD, especially when ShineOn became our favorite fulfillment partner. Basically 2020, when the logistics of the world were a mess, we did really well in drop shipping, but it was very stressful. And so I met Eric Taz, founder, at a mastermind event, and he was like, come down to St. Pete and check out what I'm doing. I was like, I'm in, let's go. And moved down to St. Pete and worked out of your office for a while and figured this thing out. And, the rest is kind of history. We've been able to push bigger and bigger numbers each year. It's a family business. I run it with my sister. Matt Bahe was a student, and now he's surpassed me, and he teaches the Tuesday call in the coaching program. Just a wonderful group of, expect 30 or 50 people on my group calls, all between complete beginners to people that have done multiple 7 and even 8 figures with me now. So my life's work is this coaching program, and we're super proud of it. And it's pretty cool to be able to get these kind of results. Honestly, if you look at Matt's $7.5 million year, I thought Matt was going to do 2 or 3 million last year, but he was prepared to do bigger numbers, and there you go. So this thing, I started this thing, but it's taken on a life of its own. And I'm just kind of blessed to be in the middle of it, be a hub of information about what works, and network with people that were students and now colleagues to be able to keep pushing this thing as high as can be pushed.
I remember when you, I think you were just getting started, but I'm not sure that's the right way to articulate it. But I remember having a conversation with you, I think it was in 2020. And you had told me you had just spent like a whole year doing like 10 coaching calls a day or some crap like that. Like it was some really large number where I was like, good grief, I don't know how you're doing it. And it was just you talking to people every single day. I don't remember how many you said you did, but it was a lot.
Oh, that's funny that you remember that. I forgot about that. So yeah, it was I think it was before that, because I sort of offered this coaching program as like a guy under a guy in drop shipping a couple years before that. And he was selling like $1,000 course. And I was like, you know what, everybody that signs up, I'm going to give him a coaching call. And he sold like 300 courses. And so I got to, talk to 300 people, just 10 a day until I caught up with that in, a month or two. And that was very insightful, especially for somebody that had success like drop shipping, but then to be able to talk to that many people right when you're starting your initial coaching program and see all those pain points and commonalities and just, absorb that amount of information I gave it out for free to start, and it was super valuable. And that was foundationally what built our ability to be able to get results for clients. And segue into what we're going to teach today. What we're teaching today is foundational in you being able to build a 6, 7 figure, 8 figure business, is to have a realistic testing methodology and then stick to it. And ideally have a network of people to lean on if you're feeling in doubt.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I feel like I wanted to highlight that is just that, like when you talk to that many people, you become very well acquainted with their struggles, and usually people are all struggling with the same
Sure.
3, 4, 5 things, right? At least that's been my experience here doing the Shine On thing. I'm sure it's been your experience too. But once you talk to that many people and you deeply understand
At each level, there's commonalities in the pain points. Sure.
yeah, and once you deeply understand it,
Yeah,
you
sorry, I
can
know we got
really help solve it, you know. All right, let's go to the next one. I bet you this delay is like 10 seconds. So that's okay. It's no problem. We will get through it.
I'm picking up on that.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of hand the mic to you. Why don't you kind of start teaching? I'll try to jump in if I have questions or something like that. If you need me to change a slide, just tell me, and we'll operate like this until since we have this lag.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, so if you were a new student and you're coming into me as, onboarding, right? I really break this journey down into kind of 4 steps, okay? And we're gonna go over the first 2 steps today. So your phase 1 is your initial testing. Your phase 2 is once you have something that has some traction, and we'll call that an outlier, you're developing it, okay? Now your phase 3 is sort of your verification and pre-scaling. And your phase 4 is, scaling like your hair's on fire and making as much money as possible, right? And then it's rinse and repeat. Okay. So today we'll go over the initial couple phases, and you can ask questions as I go, and I can also just speak like I do to like you said, to a new student that comes on, because everybody that comes on, I do an hour-long kickoff call with, and this is a big portion of that kickoff call. Yeah, we can do that next slide. Okay, cool. All right, so this slide is kind of for later if you guys want to revisit this, to actually how to set it up. And I can probably get you a 3-minute video. Gina, let's add a quick little like training video to the freebie at the end to show people exactly how to set this up, so it's not just gobbledygook. I know we've got a bunch of Loom videos that we can pop in there, okay? All right, so without getting too in depth into what we're setting up here, we're using the CBO algorithm, the campaign budget algorithm, right? It might be called something different in Facebook because they love to make things more confusing, right? And rewind there, we're very, very Facebook heavy. I believe that's where the vast majority of the profits are for most people. And it's not the only place to make money. But what I've seen over the years is that the vast majority of profits there, obviously I'm biased because that's where we get the vast majority of profits and that's my expertise. But that's been a really good market fit. Okay. So in your initial, if we zoom out, without getting too bogged down in this slide, when you're initially testing, you want to test a variety of ideas and concepts, probably 2 or 3 different niches that are timely, right? So, maybe the love niche, the mom niche, graduation, something like that, things that are just obvious in Google Trends that are working right now, right? And so you want to test a variety of things. We find that if we're talking about a message card, which is where we do big numbers as well as acrylics, you want to spend about a break-even amount of money on the test. And so I found that the CBO algorithm, which is when you're launching a Facebook ad, it's a campaign budget algorithm. They have the ad set budget as well. I found that over the years that I get cleaner data from that. The other choice in the ad set budget algorithm, I like for certain things. But for initial testing, I found that I get a lot cleaner data. And that's really what you're buying on the first $50 in spend, is you want a really legible design that is a very simple picture ad. And you want to see if that phrase makes some sales, because then you can add all the kung fu and creative and all your special sauce to it afterwards, especially in a newer ad account, newer domain, newer project, unproven product, unproven upsells, unproven or just intermediate or beginner student, or somebody that needs to relearn something else because what they're doing now isn't working. And so you have a couple human levels and an algorithm level, why you just really want to make something super legible, and you want to put a break-even amount of money behind it. I like to do 2 days at 25, because what if one day was, Facebook's algorithm was just being a real pain in the butt. And then on day 2, you get a bunch of sales, right? You want to put that whole 50 into one day. You want to spread it out and get a little time on your side there. So basically, without getting too in depth into this, and again, like I said, we'll have a freebie at the end, and I'll make sure there's a training video on actually setting up these tests. So you want to spend $25 a day for 2 days. And if we zoom out when you're first testing, okay? And then next slide, please, Mike.
So, hey, real quick, I'm going to try to ask a question. So I just want to repeat back what I'm hearing.
Please.
So it's one campaign, one ad set, 3 ads, right? And you're just spending $25 a day up to about $50.
Well, there's scenarios in which you spend more, but initially that's what you set out to do, is spend $25 a day for 2 days. We want one ad set to keep it simple, nice, big, broad targeting. Just don't be off the mark, okay? We do 3 ads primarily for an algorithmic reason, because you want to get from the beginning, you want to get multiple ads. You want to get a nice ratio of approved ad creatives. So usually we do those ads, they're completely identical, but let's say you're testing 10 products and you only tested with 1 ad. Well, if you test the same 10 products with 3 ads, usually the algorithm's actually going to perform a little better for you. That's one thing. But second, now you have 30 approved ads in your brand new ad account. And once you get a ratio of more and more approved ads, things get easier. So that's sort of like, this is foundationally set up for humans and for communicating what you need to communicate with an algorithm. Okay, so these are the 3 simple rules. They're very simple, and human beings find it very hard to follow them. Okay, so literally, again, you have, in most cases here, and this isn't the only way to skin a chicken, but it mathematically seems to be working the best because of the numbers we're putting up, and people are able to do this recipe. This recipe works. This recipe bakes the cake. Okay, I'm not saying it's the only way, but for us, it does. New ad account or new project, unproven products, ad account and an unproven product, okay? But this is especially in a new ad account, unproven product, unproven domain. All the other KPIs, key performance indicators, cost per click, add to carts, are usually noise. And the only thing you can actually trust is, out of your initial budget, is did real human beings not buy? That's scenario 1. Did one person buy? Or did, what we're really looking for here is this outlier. Did multiple real human beings really take out their credit card and really buy from your ad? Because you could get 10 add to carts on something in the first $5 in spend, and it was probably Facebook bots. You could get a really cheap cost per click on your first $20 in spend, and it's probably Facebook just giving you junk traffic. And so you just have to laser focus in on what really matters in the initial stage. The only thing that really matters is purchases. Once you have something that's got traction, an outlier, a previous winner, what have you, we'll start to look at other metrics like cost per click, link click-through rate. You look at your CPMs. You can look at all kinds of stuff. But in the beginning, it's complete noise. In my admittedly experienced opinion, it's complete noise, especially on an unproven product, unproven ad account. The domain's new to Facebook. It's going to give you a wildly different quality of traffic. It'll give you some great traffic, some mediocre traffic, some absolutely junk traffic. It might on the second half of day 2 just give you some good traffic, and you get 3 sales out of nowhere, even though you had like an $8 cost per click on up to that, and then it just decides to give you some good traffic. So all we can really trust on this, what I think is the minimum amount of ad spend to really test something, is did real human beings buy, and ideally multiple. And I can see the delay. It is like 10 seconds because I see it on the other screen. It's like at least 10 seconds, maybe 20.
Dude, it's really bad. Okay, let's keep going. Maybe at the end of this, if we have time, we'll do some Q&A, and we'll figure out how to serve those up in a way that the 10-second delay is not weird. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next slide, and I'll just let you continue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in initial testing, here's 4 very common mistakes, okay? People get into this print on demand and creativity type niche often because they like it. They like these products, they like the designs, Maybe they're very passionate about a sub niche, and that's great. I'm glad that got you here. But it's my job to make the most amount of people make the most amount of money in the quickest period of time with the least amount of pain. And so what really works for the majority of top selling products is, at least at the beginning, highly legible products. Okay. You want to have a very specific gift receiver, a very specific gift giver, because as somebody's scrolling through Facebook, they need to immediately know who it's to, who it's from, and they need to be able to read that thing and have an emotional reaction very fast. They also need to not have to wonder, hey, what's that adjective, right? Like just think elementary school level adjectives, bold lettering, very obvious gift receiver, very obvious gift giver. I'm not saying these are the only products that work. I'm just saying this is like 99, 98% of the products that work, at least get you initial traction. You might have a more creative version that you scale, and you certainly might have a more creative ad creative that you scale. But to get initial traction for our $50, we want the right people to read these things, be able to read them fast and click and make a decision on the website. And so you want a highly legible design, at least for 80% of what you're putting out there, right? If you're a highly creative person, I embrace that. And if you can draw outside of these lines and catch lightning, that's awesome. But again, I'm speaking to you as if you're a new client, I would tell you, give me 80% boring, straightforward, but nice sentiment quotes on the top selling products. So we're going laser, the right niches at the right time. And so we can laser focus in on what's going to make you some sales. And that'll be your initial spark that'll get you in the game. And will also, again, that we're feeding the algorithm the fact that we're making some sales, because it's going to treat you a lot better if your site makes sales.
Look, I want to highlight something here real quick before we move on. So when you look at this, it looks super simple, right? And but people don't realize actually how much thought has gone into just this simple template. And I want to highlight some of that, and you fill in the blanks if I miss something here. So first of all, notice that the body font down here, it's what they call a sans serif font. It's not a serif font. Serif fonts have these little feet at the bottom of the characters, right? This is actually important. It's a small detail, but it's an important one, because when you use serif fonts down here in the body, it can make it look super busy and it makes it difficult to read. So they very intentionally chosen a serif font for the body text. The other thing I want to bring your attention to is notice the balance of the way the font is laid out. Like if you ask me, you basically have three, there's probably more than this, okay? But you have three primary creative elements when you're making a message card. One is your font choice, two is your font layout, and three is the design around all of that, right? Font layout is something that is often overlooked. People don't think about that. But when you're looking at this, even though this is an example card and it's kind of a fake phrase or whatever, notice the balance here in the way the font is laid out. You have an equal number of lines on the left, an equal number of lines on the right. Notice that the sentence here ends in a period. The sentence here ends in a period, and you're not stretching your thought from one paragraph to the next, right? That's intentional. That's intentional. It's not by accident. Don't overlook that. Also notice, and this is a small thing, and not every phrase does this, and not every phrase has to do this. However, I have seen this on multiple winning designs now. Notice the paragraph down here at the bottom, the font funnels downwards. It's wider at the top, gets narrower as it goes down. Again, that's not a requirement. I'm not saying anything like that. Not every phrase has that. I do see that in many winning phrases, though. I do. So I'm guessing it adds some small marginal lift to things. So you have the font layout, but the other thing I want to call your attention to is there are only three fonts in this design. The serif font, the font with the feet, is "To My Caring Mom." This is just classic. Almost always the "To My" part is a serif font. And then down at the bottom, the "Who It's From" part, the "Love Your Son, Love You Forever, Love Your Husband," or whatever the heck it is, that is almost always a serif font as well, and it almost always matches the same font type as the "To My" part. It's just a different size, usually. And then "Who It's To" is almost always its own elegant kind of font to really make that part stand out and pop. I wanted to take a second just to break that down because it's so easy to look at this and in 3 seconds go, oh, I got it, and then move on. And you fail to see how much intentionality actually goes into even a very simple message card just like this. All right, that's all I've got, Mario. Back over to you.
No, I loved it. I like that. My sister probably did that intentionally because she laid that out and she does the the phrase building and the graphics for us. And I've honestly never laid it out a couple of those points as eloquently as that. So yeah, I completely agree with everything you added to what I said. Very cool. Okay. All right. This slide's a little busy, but let's get to the like the meat of it, right? So your initial testing, you're going to test, right? And you mainly want to make conclusions off of your losers, off of things that make no sales. And I don't mean conclusions like how many add to carts. I mean, they didn't make any sales. And so you want to see commonalities in what am I striking out at, right? So usually right around the point of 15, 20, or 40 tests or something, a client will send me just a file dump of like, hey, these are the ones that made no sales. This one got a sale. Maybe I hit an outlier. Maybe I didn't yet. And at that point, I just do a quick voice memo and I go through them and I'm like, all right, well, this I would have tested. This had no chance because of legibility. This one you thought it was legible, but it wasn't because the background color and the foreground color don't match, right? So in that initial testing, you're going to go through some learning curves. Plus, your ad account doesn't know who you are yet, so it's getting to know you, right? Once multiple real human beings have really bought from your $50 ad, now it's time to go to work on it. And we go much more in depth into this, but this is the bird's eye view. And this is what I like to give people when they first come in. You test, you don't just test, find a winner and then hope it scales and smoke the hopium. You test, you find something that's an outlier, and now you're going to develop that outlier. You're going to try to improve the product, card, acrylic, what have you. You're going to do creative testing, which I've been on previous Coffee with Michaels, I think a couple times, and we can find the links to those. And I also think they're on our freebie at the end. Sometimes you and I have talked, Michael, about the way that we do creative testing. A great creative of a product that's proven to make some sales at the right time, it can be the whole 1, 2, 3 combo, assuming there's not something broken elsewhere in your site or something. That's the 1, 2, 3 combo that also often breaks people in or breaks them to a higher level. Okay, so to back up, we got our outlier and we're going to try and improve upon it. We're going to test different versions of the copy. We're going to test different versions of the design, simple elements. You could add a little graphical element, usually a small graphical element, not like a ton of clip art, usually a small element, not always. Again, we're talking in generalities of the majority of winners. Might have a simple graphical element that actually is aesthetically pleasing, but without being too graphical to catch the eye and make the eye focus on it too much, okay? It might be a background color change. You might change to a different background color and do the luxury box and the gold SKU versus the white SKU in the standard box, right? And then from a creative point of view, you can go as deep as you want. You can test 10 creatives, you can test 100 creatives, pictures, Facebook primary text, Facebook headlines, videos, different versions of your best videos that have different hooks, different AI voices over your videos, actor videos, unboxing videos. You can go super deep. There's no limit to the amount of work you can do in developing the product and the creative thereof of the product. There's no amount of work that's too much unless it's totally flopping, in which case you need to go back to the drawing board and you had a false positive, right? But this is really where the thing cooks, because you're getting through your human learning curve. You're finding versions of the card and creatives of the card, just to use message cards, acrylics, whatever, that the humans want to buy at a better rate. And you're seasoning your ad account. And by seasoning, I mean, imagine you were doing business with an actual person. Are they more likely to send you customers if you're brand new to them, or if you've done $10,000 in sales with them and you had a pretty good conversion rate and the ad creatives were better and your website's proven to deliver products and you're not getting negative feedback, you're getting some positive feedback. There's a real element in the algorithm here where, people might call it optimization, but before optimization, it's a handshake. Facebook's getting to know you here, and it's seeing that your creatives are getting better, that your products are getting better, your website's performing better. It gets all that data. Your credit card is going through successfully. Customers aren't complaining, or maybe at this point you're doing Facebook shops, you get a couple good reviews. Things start to get way easier once you've taken 1 or 2 products through development, because you've gone through your learning curve. You have some things that sell, you have some creatives that do pretty good or great, and Facebook trusts your business, and it's going to match buyers to sellers more in your favor than it did 30, 40, 50 products ago, a couple thousand, $10,000 ago in sales. So this slide's a little cluttered, but it is key to develop these things.
No, I think it makes total sense to me. I mean, here's if I could sum up what I think I've heard here, it is, and I've said this before, so this is kind of my paraphrase. It's winning campaigns are not launched, they are built, right? And you're basically just highlighting this fact that you got to test. You're almost building an MVP in the beginning, and then you're testing it to see if the phrase and the niche you've chosen has legs. And then if you get a sale, if you start getting signal in the noise, if you start getting a positive response from the market that maybe you're onto something, then you move into this stage where you start to tweak and test and optimize it to make it sell better. And while that's happening in the background for free, you're basically building up rapport with Facebook, right? So as you tweak the designs and maybe you get a few more sales, and as Facebook sees that your payments are on time and reliable and your card's not bouncing and your BM's verified, probably was verified before you started all this, you start getting positive reviews on your shop or whatever. You're actually sending products to customers and the customers are happy. As that starts to happen, you're building rapport with Facebook while you're in this tweaking stage. And for free, Facebook is going to start making this easier for you. And by the way, I do just want to highlight real quick, Mario is definitely onto something here. Hands down, it is so much easier to do this on an account that's had sales and things like that before than a brand new account. He is spot on that it really is like Facebook. It really is like Facebook, because they don't have a relationship with you. They have their guard up, right? So they're willing to play ball, right? But they're not taking you to the back room to do it. It's you're kind of in the front of the house and they're slowly letting you in, right? If that makes sense. So persistence is key here. Moving, treating this like a business and moving through these stages of development intentionally is really important here, and not giving up is really important as you move through these stages. Okay, I'm going to move to the next slide now, since there's a 10-second delay. And if you want me to go back, you just say so.
Okay, this is a slide from a previous Coffee with Michael on creative testing. I guess I probably shouldn't have included it. It's a little out of context, but without watching that whole Coffee with Michael, we'll make sure you guys get the link to that one on creative testing. But the general idea here is we did initial testing with a CBO, but now we have something that made some sales. And so we're going to create a new campaign called a creative sandbox. So we're going to test pictures. We're going to test Facebook primary text. We're going to test headlines. We're going to test those, she cried reading this overlays. We're going to test videos. Basically, we're going to test a new idea per ad set. And we're just going to keep firing off new ideas. We're going to find out what has improved this product. And then we're going to iterate on that again with more creative tests. Okay. And this is when the first time we start to look at some KPIs, performance indicators, other than purchases. And the first indicator I'm going to look at here is unique link click-through rate, okay? Because that's the unique link click-through rate, as it says. And so at this point, we have a baseline of what our best product is getting for a unique link click-through rate, which is a mouthful. And we want to see if we can create some creatives that will get a better unique link click-through rate, because Facebook's going to like that and it's going to make you more money. And so we're looking for purchases here, but we're also looking for some ideas that we had, especially if we use that idea in multiple pictures or something. We're looking for ideas that are getting clicks at a better rate. And so when you have a product that makes sales and you can get clicks at a better rate, you can end up actually getting profitable in your creative testing. And that's often a good sign, a very good sign. If and when your creative testing becomes a profitable campaign in and of itself, you're really onto something. And it might not be your first round of creatives test. Maybe you do 5 or 10 ideas, but only 1 or 2 of them work. Okay, and they improve nicely on your baseline. Well, then you take those 2 and you make a conclusion, and you make 10 versions of those, or 10 versions of those best 2 ideas, and you can reiterate, and this will tell you if your product is really developing at this point. And also in the background, you're feeding indicators to Facebook that your creatives are getting better. It wants you to have better creatives because you're getting more engagement, and it might be able to even charge you a little bit more for impressions, but give you better impressions because it knows your creative is good, and it's going to get a click to a product that might make sales at a good conversion rate. And so now you're in harmony by improving your creatives on something that makes sales. You and Facebook both know it, and you're in harmony with the Terminator, with AI here. You're not imposing your will on the market. You're in harmony with the market by improving things. And that's huge on a human level because the humans like it better. You are learning what's working, and the algorithm is in harmony with that. And that's a very powerful 3 things to be happening in unison.
And just for clarity, the way Facebook knows your creatives are getting better is purely based on the metrics, right? The robot is looking at things like that click-through rate and so on to see if you're actually doing things to improve your creatives and to provide a better experience for Facebook's user, right? And that's really what the algorithm is optimizing for, that user experience at the end of the day, because if somebody on Facebook buys from you, Facebook is incentivized to make sure they have a great experience and that they come back and they buy from other advertisers or you again in the future. So those are the signals Facebook's looking for as you move through this process. So I have a quick question for you, Mario, and then I'll bump it to the next slide. Why $7 an ad set?
Oh, that was just, again, this slide's out of context without that. Like, I think we have a couple different Coffee with Michaels where we went over to creative testing. So this was just, I had Gina just throw a slide in there that's a little out of context. I think $7 an idea is kind of like per day. That was really the thing for like 3 days is kind of the minimum amount of spend before you start to like get some data on an idea. I think we're teaching it at $10 a day for 3 days per idea minimum. But as you get deeper into an event like this, you can be more aggressive. It's really, again, it's out of context. It's really like $7 to $75 a day per idea, depending on how aggressive you want some information per idea. Yeah. Okay, I think Gina put these slides together, and she's just hammering the point home that $7.5 million year started with the same recipe that I just told you guys. Like, couple years ago, had the same conversation with Matt. He took it farther than most, and he kept going, and he kept iterating and everything kept getting better and better and better and better, and he doesn't stop. He just keeps adding and iterating until things continually improve, and that's how you hit consistent winners. One of the things in this space, and I know I'm kind of pointing you guys towards boring cards, well, your creativity can go into the ad creative portion, and your creativity can go into your ad skills too, which is something we're not really getting into today, but that's an extra, Facebook fairy dust on top. But also people that are highly creative and hit their first winner on something that's like way outside of the lines. Like it might be, you've all seen a handful of clip art designs that do extremely well. And that's awesome, but they probably caught lightning, and that's dangerous because it's hard to catch lightning twice. Because you did something so unique that one time. If your whole business is based off of chasing something very unique, you might be in for some hurt. If you have the ability to grind out what a kind of a boring card and build on it, you're not just gonna eat that one fish, you're gonna eat for life, right? And if you make room for creativity, awesome, and you should. But if you have a foundation in developing based off of what's working and competitive in the marketplace and just continually doing it a little bit better than everybody else, there's hundreds of millions of dollars to go around in this space. And you got to grab your $250,000, $500,000, $2 million, $7 million, whatever your goal is of it. And most of that money is in really the straightforward stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Plus, like, you know, if you launch something that's way out there and it does work, you don't know why it worked. And so back, you know, Mario is kind of saying like it's going to be very difficult to replicate that in the future. It's way better if you have a process that you can repeat in the future, right? And that's I think what Mario is highlighting here. So Mario, let's do this real quick. I know at the end of this, there's a bit of a call to action and a freebie and all of that. I think before we go to that, let's do some Q&A. Are you open to doing some Q&A for a little bit?
Okay. Let's do it.
All right. So do me a favor, start dropping questions in the chat. If you're over on YouTube, drop your questions there in YouTube, wherever you're watching this, and we'll do a little bit of Q&A. And then Mario's got like a freebie and some other stuff, and we'll cover that. I will say that the thing I really like the most about kind of what you walk us through, I love the process. I mean, this is something that I feel like all of us in the space, I know you and I for years have been trying to, like, we basically have to reverse engineer what works all the time and then figure out how to write that into a process, right, as we go. And I feel like you and me and a few others, like for years, have been we've been on a journey of discovery to figure that out. And one of the things I really like about what you shared today, specifically around the MVP product, I thought was really good. It's like the MVP product for me really shows how important the phrase is, right? It's something we say all the freaking time, but the fact that it's like, no, it's a white card with basically just the phrase, right, that you're throwing out into the market to see if you get any signals that tell you, hey, it's worth continuing to pursue. It really, really, really shows just how that is so critical to anything else you do here at ShineOn. And I really like that. Let me ask real fast, is this the same process you'd use for, say, acrylic or one of the other products?
Oh, it definitely works for acrylic, right? There are some outlier niches, without giving away too much of the outlier, like clip arty stuff that's working for people in my group. There are some particular areas where customization outperforms, and I don't want to blow up my students to say exactly where those are, but it's either light customization of the gift giver, just like a sign off, or heavy customization with with graphics. But yeah, 80-90% of the money we put in clients' pockets is very much built off of this very simple, and like you called it, MVP, and then developing it from there. If that answers your question. I don't know if that was a direct answer.
No, that was great. So look, I see everybody's sales, and I can tell you that. And by the way, I would never give away anything I felt was proprietary or belongs specifically to a merchant. But I think I can say safely that I've seen a trend developing, especially over the last 2 years in particular, towards more personalization. Now it's like a lightweight personalization, kind of like Mario just described, where it's like you're putting a name or something like that on it. But the longer like I track this, the more specific the personalization becomes. Like it's starting to get more and more sophisticated. I do think that like the direction we're headed here is deeper and deeper and deeper, probably into these personalization options. It'll be interesting to see the way the market unfolds. But yeah, what Mario said is right. I mean, like 80-90% of the sales right now are stuff that probably isn't personalized, but trending that direction is kind of what I'm seeing. Okay. I have some questions coming through. So
I agree. We definitely can't ignore the personalization.
Okay. I don't know how to do this. Can you see the questions in the comments? Because if you can, maybe if you just read the question and then answered it, it might make it a lot easier.
Yeah, so the delay is fun, huh? So, because I can see on Facebook, I just did a thumbs up from 20 seconds ago. I can see some comments in Facebook. There's not that many in StreamYard. So yeah, I can mess around with some comments in Facebook.
It's like we're doing a live stream on 56K. You remember the old video games where like you'd play a first person shooter online on a dial-up modem, and you'd have to aim where they're running to. You couldn't aim at them because of the lag.
Mm-hmm. Okay, John asked John Austria asked, how much should I invest in my outlier? When do I know it's a bust? So that's a difficult question, and that's a lot harder for me to teach as a generalization, because there's a lot of factors in that, John. Like it's come down to a risk reward scenario that you have to play. So let's say it's 4 days from now and you hit a mom outlier, and you've only got you only got a week to not only develop it but scale it for Mother's Day, and then it probably isn't going to sell much again until Q4. Well, if you're fine with that delayed gratification of having a winning mom card for Q4, you can put a ton of work into it, but you might not profit right now for Mother's Day. But let's say you have a graduation product or another niche that sells for graduation, like daughter or son. Well, you can sell straight through the cutoff, and you're going to get a longer period of time to sell than just the Mother's Day spike. And so in that case, you might be able to see a short-term win, as well as develop something that you're going to be able to sell again, right? And then it also comes down to your current budgets and your goals. If somebody comes to me and says, and I ask them, on a discovery call, which you're all welcome to book from the freebie, it's a 15-minute call. If somebody comes to me on a discovery call, I'll say, what are your goals? If somebody says, I want to make $50,000, I'll be like, all right, we'll get a gross $200,000 to $250,000. And if they're dealing with a limited budget, then I'm going to lay out a different business model than if somebody says, I want to, make 200 grand. And then I'm going to say, well, you're going to have to test stuff more aggressively and scale more aggressively, right? So one thing I can say is kind of a generalization is if the development phase is losing more than like 20%, if you're going negative in the development phase more than like 20%, it might not be a great sign that it's going to develop. Although if you're doing a couple different rounds of development, you might lose more in the first round, but you find that one great idea that really was doing a lot better. So don't scrap the whole thing. Do another round of development, whether it's change to the card and or the creative, where you really lean into that. And then look at that best of the first round of development as if it's a new product, and just run money in, money out on that best thing that you've got. Run another round of creative tests on it and see if that thing was the spark you needed, right? Because it doesn't matter if you lost a few $100, $1,000 or whatever to get there. If you have that one thing that just like picked up 3 sales out of $20 in ad spend and had like a double or triple click-through rate as your previous thing, just because the whole first round of development didn't work, don't scrap it. You had that one absolute diamond in there. Lean into that diamond and see if you can iterate on that and or scale that, right? And so it's a difficult question for me to ask to say as a generalization. But after about 2 rounds of creative testing, you should have a pretty good idea if it's just not developing. And sometimes the fact that it's not developing could just be that, what you have right then is just not strong enough in your ad account at that moment, but it might have been enough to give you that initial handshake with Facebook. And it might be that this whole time, at least test a couple new ideas every week, and their next outlier may develop a lot easier because you learn some things about what's working, and Facebook treats you a lot better when you develop your second outlier, because you're going to feed it better ad creatives and products anyways, and it knows something about you, and it's going to give you a better baseline quality of traffic normally. And so I think Matt on here, that just had the $7.5 million year, I think it was his second outlier that did that for him. His first one just didn't want to develop. It was kind of stubborn. But the second one went easy. And it was a combination of his product got better, his creative got better, and the algorithm let him play ball at a higher level. And I think it was like a quick $500,000 scale immediately after that second round of development. Okay, let's see. More questions, unless Michael jumps in on the delay here. Michael's going to sign out. Okay. All right. What do we got here? Gary's talking about customization. Yeah, Gary crushes it at customization. He really does. And I agree with Michael that, we probably could spend a little more time on customization. Sure. What advice? Okay, Chelsea's asking, what advice do you have for finding evergreen winning products outside of the holidays? Google Trends. Go into Google Trends and type in a gift for blank, right? And then also think about like who buys all the time. Well, these pieces of jewelry, the love niche. People are always buying something for their significant other, right? So that's pretty evergreen. That's the first one that comes off the top of my mind, because the other ones are a bit more spiky and more timing. So probably the love niche is the most evergreen. I think the data would support that. But you don't want to just test into one niche, because you could be testing into the love niche and just sort of striking out. But maybe for whatever reason, the products you put out do better to daughter or granddaughter or son or something else. So you want to have a variety of things. But I mean, after Mother's Day, I wouldn't test mom, right, until maybe Q4. And if you go and you look at gift for mom in Google Trends, look at a 5-year chart or something in Google Trends, it'll show you that there's 2 times people are buying gifts for mom, right? And I definitely wouldn't. I would only do like gift for dad for Father's Day, maybe Q4. Dads don't get as much love with the gifts, but with the acrylics, it could be interesting this year. So yeah, off the top of my head, love niche, but don't just stick with one niche. Don't niche down too much. Don't be like, I tell people, the direct family relationship or 1 degree of separation, right? So it could be daughter, then it could be bonus daughter, something like that. And your 1 degree of separation cards may or may not be your upsells. In slower times, don't niche down too much, and be aware of those Google Trends, right? Like, don't do the love niche right after Valentine's Day. There's a big dip. And you can do that. You can look at a 5-year chart of any of these niches, and you can see where it really dips, and you can see where it really goes hyperbolic. The question mark is always sort of like after Father's Day, like what's actually selling through the summer. And so, there's sales. They have to be bigger niches, or if you think outside of the box, you mix that in there. But yeah, off the top of my head, love niche is probably the most evergreen. Okay. What's the cutoff for graduation, Ruth? That's a good question. We'll have to ask Shine on that.
We usually don't publish a cutoff for graduation, because graduation.
Virginia's talking about.
Is it? This is just so nuts. The graduation is it spans a long period of time. Like usually it'll start mid-May. I think even earlier, depending on where you're selling into. And I've seen it go all the way through the end of June. And this is just for like graduation dates. That's not even the selling season on it. So we don't typically publish cutoffs for that.
Okay. E-Specialty for Jewelry has a good question. How do I figure out if it's the website or the ads that are not working to make sales? Too many clicks, sales added cards. Okay, so again, the way that I teach, I've done $1 million scales. I don't know what the cost per click was. I don't know what the add to cart rate was. I just knew what the cost per purchase was, and I floored it to $1 million, right? So for me, purchase is almost everything. Now in creative testing, sure, I'm looking at some other stuff. But again, if you test enough creatives, it becomes super obvious which one's doing better, right? But you can get much more analytical and look at the other metrics. But if you're talking in initial testing here, you're worried that your site's flopping and that you're just wasting money on ad spend. So what you want to learn to do is basically test your site more than looking at the add the carts and initiate checkouts and things. Go into incognito mode, make a test purchase, use a third-party tool like GT Metrics or Google. What's the Google one? Google Optimize or something like that. You want to do a speed test of your home page, of your product page, and of your cart page. And if you got like a 11-second load speed on your product page, or your cart page or your home page with a bunch of spikes and things that are loading really slowly, probably you installed a bunch of different Shopify apps and they're just really screwing up your site. And even if you uninstalled them, they left a bunch of crappy code behind. And so you're gonna need to launch a nice, simple new theme. So knowing whether it's the website or the ads, you don't find that out in Ads Manager or in the add to carts and initiate checkouts. You find that out by actually analyzing if the site is broken. Okay. Kelly's asking what my program is. It's called EPM, Ecom Performance Mastermind. We'll have a freebie at the end that's got plenty of training on it and ways to get in touch with us for sure. Okay. Do I use the meta ad library to find UGCs? Uh-oh, somebody's, okay. Do I use the meta ad library to find, yeah, I definitely look through the meta ad library and other spy tools, and I'll definitely purchase products from other vendors to turn my Facebook ad feed into a spy tool. Now, I'm looking for ideas. I'm not looking to rip things off. Okay, you want to grab an idea and you can rewrite it in ChatGPT. You want to grab a design or a font or something that's working. You can find a concept that's working on a message card in one niche and adapt it to an acrylic in a different niche, right? You want to see what's working for people and do your own version of it. If you directly copy it, you either won't be able to compete, or if you know what you're doing and you directly copy it and you get to scale, you're going to get a DMCA takedown from my clients, and you're just going to lose your ad account. You're going to lose your your Shopify account, your payments and stuff. And it might even be a trademarked one, and you might think you're making money and then you end up losing money at the end, right? So don't directly copy things, but definitely Facebook ad library is very powerful to see what other people are doing and what's scaling and what's and some ideas for ad creatives, for videos, pictures, but yeah, don't rip it off, but use it for learning and for ideas that you can build off of. Okay, following up on John here. So to clarify, once we have an outlier, we just test different creatives, headlines, etc., but keep the phrase the same. Also test different versions of the phrase. Right, so in development, John, the way that we define it, it's testing different versions of the card, which could be copywriting or graphics on the card. Graphics could be a font, it could be a color, right? It could be simple. Ideally, you don't do a test that's different copy and different graphics, because then it's not really, it's gotten kind of far away from being a version of what worked. Ideally, you do separate tests for just the copywriting, separate tests for just the graphical layouts and fonts and such. Now, after a round or two of that, you might find some copy that's improved and some graphics that have improved, and you make a hybrid of that, and you do take a conclusion and you do a bunch of different versions that have your best copy and your best creatives and similar thereof. Sorry, your best graphics and similar thereof. Meanwhile, you're testing creative ideas. Now you might find your best, she cried reading this overlay, or a little background color, or you take some UGC pictures like Michael did in his parking lot, or a nice picture with flowers or something. Now you got your best picture of your best card with your best graphics on it and your best graphical overlay and your best Facebook text, and you're improving the product the whole time while you're also seasoning your ad account. And then at that point, you want to verify it, which we're not getting into in this call. You want to verify it with more intermediate type pre-scaling ad strategy too. That will scale. Is that if you have a higher spend ad strategy and you're feeding it, or potentially a higher spend ad strategy, and you're feeding it with all these different versions and creatives, now you have a couple different things that are verifying your product. And the stronger your product is, the stronger your creative is, the easier all the other stuff's going to be, of course. And at this point too, start putting in upsells too, because you want to get that average order value up, and you're spending more money on all these different versions. Now is an opportunity for you to get more views of your cart if you're doing an in-cart upsell, and of your post-purchase if you're doing a post-purchase upsell. So now is an opportunity to bring your average order value up and test your upsells too. So like think about how you can develop this thing out. It's a good time for you to start split testing abandoned cart emails as well, because now you're getting a lot more emails in your abandoned cart flow. And so while you're in development, there's a lot of things that you can work on to improve the chances of this product working and improve the entire project that you're working on, your entire business. Okay, Shelly. So if you had some outliers that did okay, like 5 sales in a week on Etsy, oh, here we go. Okay, to try old one now, should I change my creatives up? Is it okay to bring them back or just move them forward? So Chelsea, so what works on Etsy doesn't always translate or doesn't often translate to paid ads on Facebook. So there's definitely a lot of differences here. One, Etsy is, for the most part, a search intent platform. So people went there to look for a gift for mom. So you can have this, this sort of big Etsy cursive font and a bunch of flowers and stuff on there, and people will take the time to read the card. Now, those cards actually might be nicer, and your mom might actually like those cards better, but that doesn't mean that a brand new ad account on Facebook is going to be able to make those work, right? And so, my sister's had Etsy winners, and then I'm like, all right, you got to water it down for Facebook. And she's like, okay. And then I'm like, no, you got to water it down even more. We got to test this quote, and then we can start, adding some graphics. I will say this is a caveat, that of all of the events that have a higher correlation between what works on Etsy and what works on Facebook ads, the mother niche and Mother's Day in particular has a higher correlation, meaning there was 2 or 3 years ago, the top seller for Facebook and for Mother's Day and the top selling product on Etsy were pretty dang similar. Okay. And the Facebook version was watered down a bit, but not that much. Like you can get away with a little bit of a flowery border and stuff on your mom cards, like Mother's Day, flowers, Hallmark. It's all kind of, especially as we're getting closer and closer to Mother's Day. This is a window of time where Etsy-ish type designs specifically for mom have a chance of working right now. But if we're talking about the whole year and a repeatable way to make money, you really have to have something that is proven to work on the platform you're spending the money on. And the best way that we found to be able to do that repeatedly is to start with initial testing, very, very legible, very easy to read through font pairing, so that people can immediately know who it's to and who it's from, because we're interrupting them. They're just scrolling on Facebook. And if they see a super cursive font and some really nice writing and graphics and this and that, they might stop for a second and be like, oh, that's pretty. And they just go right back, buy it. But if we had a very basic looking, big font, mom, love daughter, love son, they'll stop and they'll read it and they'll go, oh, that's really nice. And then they'll go buy it. Right. So usually what works on Facebook is not the same thing as what works on Etsy, but that doesn't mean you can't come up with some ideas for designs on Etsy and certainly quotes on Etsy. You're just going to have to translate them to the platform that you're selling on with paid ads, interruption ads. Oh, you had run ads to it on Facebook. Okay. Follow. I went off on that whole Etsy versus Facebook thing, and she meant to say Facebook. That's no problem. Don't worry about it. Okay, so you made 5 sales on it in a week. Well, I need to know a little bit more about that, right? So how much did you spend to get those 5 sales? Because if your cost per purchase was like $30, you're probably onto an outlier and you get to work on that thing. If your cost per purchase was $100, maybe it wasn't quite there. Okay, Ruth is asking about Facebook Shops sales versus website. So when you choose the placement in Facebook to choose to run ads either just to the Facebook Shop, the point of sale is actually on Facebook, okay? And it'll interact with your Shopify store and it'll do its own thing by its own rules. When you choose the website plus shops placement, Facebook's going to decide what traffic it wants to send to its shops and what traffic it wants to send to your website. In general, we do website plus shops, but certain times people are doing better with just Facebook shop placement, and certain times people are doing, and in some cases, the website plus shops is being intelligent enough to push it to where it's profitable. Other times it's pushing it to a place where you're not making money anymore, and you have to try some other ad sets that are, for example, just website, because especially if your website has like great upsells, and so you're getting a really nice high conversion AOV on your website, but Facebook keeps pushing you to shops where you just sort of get one-offs. At least at this point, they'll probably make it better in the future, but at this point you get a lot of one-offs on your Facebook shop, but you might need that AOV from your upsells on your website. And so you want to have some ad sets that are just website only and some that are website plus shops. But that really comes more into scaling than in testing and developing. Let's see if I missed anything here. I think I'm pretty caught up. Somebody can repost their question if I missed it, or if they wanted me to elaborate. Okay, Chili asked a different question. Product like a blanket or wall art. I like the break-even point on wall art, probably better there. I also have more experience with wall art as a POD product, and I know it can scale. So it comes down to something like about the break-even ROAS. So to plug the freebie again that we're going to give you at the end here, I'd go pretty in depth into margin and break-even ROAS, and we really like the products that you can sell for a lot of money, and relative to what you can sell it for, your COGS on a percentage basis are lower, right? And that comes down to what your break-even ROAS is. And there's certain products that you might spend 1,000 on ads, and you need to get 2,000 in sales just to break even. That would be a break-even ROAS of a 2. There's other products where you can spend 1,000 on ads and you just need $1,300 or $1,400 in sales to break even. So if you spent that same 1,000 on ads and got 2,000 in sales, you made a profit of $600 or $700. And so we really prefer to try the products, focus on the products that have the highest margin and the lowest break-even ROAS point. Now, if it's a new product and it has a higher break-even ROAS and you can get a really nice return on it, and you found a different angle on it, then none of that matters because it works for you. But it comes down to that 80-20 principle. Like I'll point people towards the products and say, at least put out 80% of your effort into these products that we know scale and are easier to break even on and are easier to do big numbers on, and then draw outside the lines for 20%. And if you get something different working, awesome. And let's talk about it and let's learn together and scale together on it, right? So as far as the blankets go, I really don't have the case studies on that, but I have the case studies on wall art. Wall art's a phenomenal category, and I'd love to see ShineOn in general moving a ton of wall art because there's a lot of money in it. Okay, Virginia's asking, how many times has your Facebook blocked your accounts? Yeah, it's a thing. So the nice thing about the ShineOn model, specifically in the US, European accounts can get a little trickier. Specifically in the US, your return rate and your complaint rate is very low for the most part. And so it's a very Facebook-friendly business model. There's certain things that people trip up on with Facebook, and that's a whole kind of boring 30-minute, hour-long conversation. But this is a very Facebook-friendly business model. If you're coming in with ad accounts that have had problems in other business models like drop shipping or lead gen or something like that, then Facebook can be a little cranky to you. There's always an answer to get around or to get your accounts back and or partner with somebody and or get a little into the gray area. There's always an answer to be able to spend money on Facebook. It's just a matter of ideally you set it up clean from the get-go and have a low probability of problems, we have a very, very low occurrence of problems, a lot of which is because when I onboard somebody, me and Caleb and Gene, they spend a lot of time like trying to make sure they're not doing anything against Facebook's policies. And I learned that the hard way with a lot of these gray hairs in drop shipping. But in general, fulfilling through ShineOn's is very, very Facebook friendly. Yeah. But any large internet company you deal with, whether it's Facebook or Google or Etsy, Etsy made the message cards, against policy after they did tens of millions on there, right? They have a certain amount of sway over you, right? And then or PayPal or Shopify payments, right? You're gonna have growing pains when you scale. Much better growing pains than a brick and mortar business, but there's an answer and a solution and a workaround for every problem. And one thing successful, and especially entrepreneurs that are successful multiple times and stay there, have in common is that they get over challenges no matter what they are. I don't know if anybody listens to the Jocko podcast, but he's got like a great attitude. When things go wrong, he's like, good. Everything, he can get a whole bunch of bad news and he's like, oh, good. This is an opportunity to get past the problem. Good. We're going to be stronger because of this, right? And it's hard to feel that way every day, right? Or at all, but you can say it out loud, right? And then you can work the problem. But super friendly business model. Like one of my favorite things about coaching this versus when I was coaching drop shipping is just it's so much less Facebook account problems and so much less product problems too. Like when I was coaching people in drop shipping, somebody might do a $500,000 run and then their supplier kind of screwed them on the quality of the goods or the timing or something, or they didn't ship the last batch out or something, and they thought they made $100,000, and then PayPal held their money, Shopify held their money because chargebacks came up, people didn't get their stuff, their ad account got suspended, and it went from this like, oh cool, this is my dream, I made $500,000 to all it takes is for one key thing to go wrong, like your supplier and drop shipping or something, and then everything else kind of blah, 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 blah. Whereas with ShineOn as a fulfillment partner, there's hiccups here and there, but Matt just moved $7.5 million through them, and his ad account's still up. At each level's volume, there's different challenges. Good. John's saying take ownership. Yeah, John's listening to some Jocko. Nice. All right, I'm scrolling up for questions here. I'm pretty caught up on questions, Michael.
I'm right in the middle of a crossword puzzle, Mario. Sure you can't take one or two more?
Okay. I certainly can. Somebody give me some questions.
I'm kidding. All right, let's go to your freebie, wherever it's at. There it is. So why don't you explain what the freebie is, how people can get it, where they can find you, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I decided this time to do a bit of a content ladder for the freebie, and I thought maybe that could goose the watches on the replay of this Coffee with Michael, right? So whether you're on YouTube or whether you're in the Facebook group, give me an EPM, and we'll reach out to you. Some members of my family and staff and myself will reach out to you, and we will either just give you the link right there in the comment, or we'll PM you the link or what have you. The whole point of a call to action where you have to mention something is to get more reach to this, right? And so this was a good training, and I hope people got value from it. And so give me an EPM, and we're going to send you just a basic Google Doc. On this doc, you will have, we're sending you a little quick questionnaire, right? We're going to ask for your email, okay? If you don't like the email I send, you just unsubscribe. It's just going to be basic more stuff about us and about what we do. So it'll be a combination of value and, hey, do you want to work with us, right? So give us an EPM. We're going to ask for your email. We'll also ask if you want to work with us. And if you want to work with us, I'll reach out to you. Potentially want to work with us, I'll reach out to you and we can have a quick 15-minute call. But on the freebie, there are a bunch of trainings, right? There's trainings on and case studies. There's an interview with Cindy, who's pushing $1 million that Gina just did. There's a training I did for a couple hours on Mother's Day where I gave out a whole bunch of value. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. That one's in there. There's some replays of other Coffee with Michaels from myself, from Matt Bahe, from Dean, other, seven-figure and multiple seven-figure members of my squad. Probably the ones with I hope the ones with the creative testing are on there. And after doing this call, we're going to find some videos on exactly how to set up these tests that we have scrolled away to help you guys actually launch those instead of it just being a slide where you're like, what's a CBO again and how many things? So we'll add a couple more things onto that freebie after this. So it's a bunch of trainings and more information about us and what we do. And so I hope you guys enjoy it.
Okay, I'm typing EPM now. I want this too. So Gina or whoever's doing this, don't skip me. Mario, thanks for coming on. I want to say something to everybody listening. At Shine On, we don't endorse a lot of people at Shine On. There are a lot of folks out there, but we typically wait till we see like some kind of proven track record or results or something like that. And keep in mind, we can see sales, right? So we have a way of kind of validating some of that. And Mario is somebody that I can wholeheartedly get behind. Like if you're looking for a coach or one of his programs and you need some help, I would encourage you, like if you have the funds and this is something you want to do, I'd encourage you to proceed with that. I will tell you that if it's my money, actually, there was somebody that came to me recently that were torn between some different programs. And I said, if it was my money, I'd probably go with Mario. So I just say all that to say that I've seen Mario produce results time and time again with students. So I can easily get behind them without hesitation here. So anyway, I'd encourage each of you to at least get the freebie and explore what he has. Go watch his other YouTube videos. They're all they all add a lot of value. The only thing I would like to say here as we wrap up is just keep in mind that a lot of the screenshots that Mario shared, that I've shared, these are from exceptional cases where we had exceptional people that got exceptional results, right? Like every single one of them put in a lot of hard work. They put in the time, the effort, the dedication. Those kind of results, they don't fall out of the sky for people. It's not a get rich quick. You push a button and it's just going to rain profits. That's not how this works. And also, most of the time, like even though you'll see a screenshot where someone makes a ton of money in 3 weeks leading up to Mother's Day or whatever, what you don't see is they've been at it for 6-9 months, a year in some cases, right? And I just feel it's important to highlight some of that because you can imagine me. I'm in hundreds of videos now on YouTube. We've got the group. I'm kind of all over the place here. People reach out to me every week that are in challenging financial positions asking about this opportunity. And I usually tell them like, look, if you've got 6 months or a year, or you can treat this like any other skill and build upon it over time, then by all means, explore this e-com thing. But if you're in a place where you're going to be kicked out of your house in a month if you don't make your mortgage payment, like this is not the thing for you. I don't want your last dollar, right? And I'm sure Mario agrees with me on this. Go to YouTube, absorb some of the free resources, type EPM in the chat, get the guide, work on all that stuff, build up some skill acquisition, give yourself some runway, and proceed with this e-com thing. But you have to treat it like a skill, like a real business, just like anything else, if you want to achieve success here. So I just kind of want to highlight that because when we throw around big numbers, it's exciting. It draws a lot of people in. I love seeing big numbers. They encourage me to push harder in whatever it is I'm doing entrepreneurially. But it's just important that everybody kind of understands the other side of the coin. Mario, do you have anything you want to add to that before I move to wrap us up here?
No, I 100% agree. Like if I'm working with somebody, I'm working with them, and my family's working with you for 6 months, a year, multiple years. Like, if it's not a fit, I don't want your last dollar. Like I don't. That's just too stressful for you. It's too stressful for me. It's too stressful for my sister, my team. Like, it's got to be a fit. I mean, I turn down people. It's not that I turn them down. It's just like what we do is just not a fit at this point, right? And then some people come back to me years later and like, all right, I'm ready for it. Let's rock and roll. But some people right away are like, let's rock and roll. I'm in. This fits my risk reward profile, my financial doings. But yeah, we treat it as a real business. It is a real business. It is my job to get you to give you everything you need to build a 6 or 7 figure business in the quickest, most realistic time frame. And I'll lay that all out for you. I no holds bar on that. Like I'm not somebody that's everybody that's on the call there's no pressure on that sales call other than if I think you're really a fit, sure. I'm gonna say I think you're really a fit and I really want to do this with you, but that's the only pressure. Like it's not a pressure sales call. They really I'm not gonna beat you over the head and pressure you.
If the only pressure on a sales call is your enthusiasm to work with somebody because you see potential, that's not really a big deal. So, look, I just want to say before we part here, we fully endorse Mario here as kind of a Shine On coach. So there's no hesitancy in me at all having him come on, teach. There's no hesitancy in me at all promoting him or telling you guys, go get this freebie, learn what you can, go watch the other interviews that we've done with him. You'll get nothing but tons of value out of it. Mario has a lot of proven success in this space. So, all right, with that, I think we should move to wrap this up. So, Mario, really appreciate having you on. Everybody out there, I know the delay wasn't super bad, I don't think, for the audience. Backstage with Mario and I, it was super awkward. It really felt like 10 seconds between the time I'd stop and he'd start or vice versa. Until next time, everybody, happy selling and good luck to you. Adios.